Welcome to the kiwimana Day.
Hi everyone, this is Gary here from the kiwimana, and this is episode 21, and this week we're talking about sugar shaking and bees at weddings. And so what's been happening at kiwimana? Well, we've started doing sugar shaking. We did a sugar shake test with Barry in the weekend, just to check his bees as far as varroa levels. And we're happy to report there was only 4 mites, which is a good count for 300 bees. So they look okay, and they look to be set for winter. And we have some photos on our Facebook page if you want to have a look at those photos of his very strong bees. So that's good stuff. And what else have we been doing? We've been selling bee frame holders. We've published an article last week about that, and they're the things that you stick on the side of the hives, and you put bees on them. Do you ever use those before, Margaret, in your inspections?
Hi everyone. Well, kiwimana's finally come of age in our podcasting, so this is episode 21. So yeah, we've got the key to the kingdom now.
Indeed.
So, but yeah, I've used the frames quite a bit because I find it really handy when doing the inspections that you can put some out while you try and release the frames that are all propolised or waxed together. So they are really handy and very useful, especially when you're doing a lot of inspections and through the honey flow as well, because the frames get really heavy. And so having the frame holders there really does make it a lot easier. So I personally would recommend these.
Absolutely. So, well, should we go into the news, eh?
Yeah. Let's hear what's happening. I've been away for a little bit on the road, just doing some things down the line. And, yeah, so it'd be good to catch up on what's going on.
Okay, well, this month we've got an article about 5 easy ways you can help bees at your wedding. This was published by the Daily Mail.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting title, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the first thing they have is support local beekeepers by buying locally made honey for your wedding gifts or foods.
Awesome.
You could probably put it on ice cream, couldn't you, for dessert?
Oh, yum. It's almost like when you do that, I just love it because it's like a caramel. It doesn't taste like caramel, but it's a bit chewy like a caramel. And it just, especially on just vanilla ice cream, it just tastes divine.
Indeed. And the next one is plant a bee-friendly garden and then use the wildflowers for your bouquets.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Well, you'd have to plan your wedding a bit in advance, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd have to be a very good planner for that one.
No shotgun weddings there, eh? And what's the other one? Join or contribute to a campaign. It's talking about Haagen-Dazs have got a Help the Honeybees campaign.
Ah.
This must be in England, I think. And the other one is burn beeswax at your reception.
Well, they say that the proper beeswax candles burn a lot longer, so, we all need that romantic light on a wedding day.
Well, and also beeswax candles don't actually smoke, do they? That's why they used them in medieval churches, didn't they?
Oh, I see.
What's the next one? If you are very passionate about this cause... Oh, they're talking about becoming a backyard beekeeper.
Well, that's good. You can, I suppose, if you're having a wedding, you could put out flyers.
Well, you could. You could also, put out.
Use it as a promotional.
Well, it's a good way to get all your
event.
beekeeping equipment, isn't it?
Indeed.
You can go, for our wedding gifts, go and check out kiwimana.
Yeah, that would be top of the list, I reckon.
Because some people they get lists and put them into shops, don't they? And then people go and tick things off and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And the next one, we've actually got a clip here to play you guys. It's actually from CBS in America, a news article, and I encourage you to have a look at the video because the video is actually on YouTube, and we'll actually put that in the show notes. So this will be kiwimana.co.nz/21. So we'll just play this clip here, and you guys can have a listen and see what you think. We'll be back in a minute.
Honeybees have been dying in large numbers in recent years, but there's new evidence of a drastic increase in the death rate. Michelle Miller shows us why it could threaten our food supply.
A third of all our food is pollinated by honeybees.
Commercial beekeeper James Doe makes a living renting out thousands of hives to farmers up and down the East Coast. His bees are part of a crucial lifeblood to U.S. agriculture.
I think people just need to really be aware that bees are so important, not just for honey production, but for pollination in the United States.
Bees pollinate the majority of our fruit and vegetable supply. Apples, pears, green beans, pumpkins, squash, and the list goes on. But something is killing the bees at an increasingly alarming rate.
Every day you look and you'll see 100, 200 bees dead in front of the hive, maybe even to the point of 40 to 50,000 bees laying out in front of the hive, which is not normal.
USDA researchers say early indications suggest this winter will mark the highest death rate they've ever documented, and consumers could eventually feel the effects.
Without them, you're going to have higher prices that you're going to pay for fruits and vegetables, and those higher prices are not necessarily going to mean that it's going to be better product.
Bees used to die at a rate of 5 to 10% a year. Then around 2006, that rate more than tripled in a phenomenon known as colony collapse disorder. Now some beekeepers say they're losing up to 50% of their hives. Many blame a class of pesticide called neonicotinoids, or neonics.
They block the nerve endings of the bees, and so the bee is paralyzed, and then what happens is they starve to death. So you see the bee shaking, and it's a very horrific way of dying for a bee.
Doe joined a coalition of beekeepers, environmentalist, and consumer groups that recently sued the Environmental Protection Agency for failing to ban those chemicals. The lawsuit claims the EPA is well aware of recent studies and reports illustrating the risks to honeybees, but has refused to take any regulatory action.
We're finding these chemicals in the beehives. We know they're there. We're finding them in the bees, so we know they're killing bees.
The EPA won't comment on pending litigation, but says it's speeding up a review of neonics, quote, because of uncertainties about these pesticides and their potential effects on bees. CropLife America is a trade organization representing pesticide companies. Its president and CEO says current research does not show a direct cause.
There are critics of our industry that may not be informed by the most complete set of facts or scientific understanding, and we really think that that's where most of these challenges are coming from right now.
According to University of Maryland research entomologist Dennis Van Inglesdorp, it's likely a number of stress factors are killing the bees.
Most scientists aren't just focused in on the neonics. We're taking a broader look and looking at the chemical mixture that bees are exposed to. And it's quite astonishing how many chemicals are in the environment, probably affecting bee health. Meanwhile, though, we need to figure out how to keep bees alive because we can't afford to have these beekeepers go out of business.
For CBS This Morning, Michelle Miller, New York.
Yes, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that this is just another story that is added to a huge collection of issues that are going on with the bees, and you know, there's so much conflicting information where some researcher is saying yes it is, and then another researcher is saying no it isn't. So you know, this is really, really disconcerting to see that these losses are just being almost ignored by these environmental so-called protection agencies. And even in New Zealand, you know, we're trying to make them aware that over in Europe there is a huge amount of evidence that shows that these chemicals, neonicotinoids and what's the other one, dipactochloroprene or something, are harmful, and they're being put into seeds now. And you know, I just don't understand how they can justify it. But I think that if I was a conspiracy theorist, I've said it before, that it does concern me that they are using these bee losses to encourage people, you know, going to certain companies for their food sources, and that's a real worry, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just listened to a podcast tonight on the Organic View podcast, and it has Tom Ferrible on it, and there's actually a case in Ontario where there's been, I think it was 240 bee apiaries were actually wiped out because of for some unknown reason, and they actually tested the bees, and they actually did have chlorphenidin on them, which is a neonicotinoid. So I mean, is that, to me, that's proof. That's proof there, isn't it? If you cover your bees in chlorphenidin. Are you
talking about imidacloprid?
No, it's chlorphenidin, which is another type of neonicotinoid chemical. But I mean, that's kind of proved it, hasn't it? To me, to those people.
I mean, I think often there's ways to use these chemicals, and a lot of the users are being blamed for not following the instructions and that kind of thing. And there are some views in council that I understand is that, yes, you can blame the users, but the reality is that the companies that are making these products are actually using that as an excuse for their products poisoning insects and, pollinators and the water and everything like that. So I think that it's all about trying to control the food chain, and that might be a very cynical view, but I really believe that this is what these companies are trying to do, control the food chain.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of misinformation, because there's another article being published last week from John Intine on Forbes, and he's saying that neonicotinoids aren't the problem, but his article actually says here that, and I quote, despite the fact that neonicotinoids are widely used in Canada to protect canola from pests, Canadian bee populations have been largely unaffected and produce around 50 million pounds of canola honey. So why the hell have 280 apiaries been wiped out in that exact area? Yeah. So someone's not reading the same stories, are they? I mean, and that was actually an interview with actually the beekeeper that actually had been affected by it.
Well, it says there, and I quote, a large-scale Ontario field study funded by Bayer.
Yeah, but that study's been actually counteracted by Tom Faribault, because they're saying that it's not actually, wasn't very scientifically done, and it was just a disaster. Well, it wasn't actually done very well.
Yeah.
So I'll actually put that in the notes, guys, for this podcast for the Organic View podcast, and you can just have a listen to it yourself and make your own decisions. But there's definitely more to this story than meets the eye, isn't there?
I think that it's interesting in the fact that a lot of these companies that are doing mass production, or what they call overseas, they call them monocultures, is that there are some things in the natural way the environment or nature works where there are sort of monocultures, but they're not so intense that they create harm. Whereas when you've got one crop that attracts one pest, because that pest will obviously be attracted to that crop, and then you're spraying for so-called targeting that pest. But the fact that they've put all this food in one area of land has created the problem in itself, whereas if they diversified their fields and had varied crops, then they would probably find that they wouldn't have that same risk factor. So if you eliminate that risk, then I think that, by having more diverse plantings, that they'd get a better balance of food for the population and much healthier, and the risks for pests and diseases would be, reduced. I mean, a lot of natural farming practices have always, even when I was at high school, they talk about having diverse plants and companion planting.
Oh, you mean like crop rotation?
Yeah, crop rotation was part of it. That was mainly done because of the, feeding the soil, so reinvigorating the soil so they wouldn't plant the same thing again and again and again. But they also had companion planting where they would plant a plant that would get rid of a pest that may have affected another plant, and then they put them together, and the balance created good healthy crop with less pest infestation. So there's a lot to be said for, initial organic, not organic, but natural farming practices that they're moving away from, because they're saying that they need all this, 20,000 acres of corn. Well, how many people will eat just corn?
I don't eat any corn. Indeed,
but they're using corn or maize in foods that are not even corn-based. I mean, I've probably mentioned it before, but, you buy a tuna feed, little snack, and it's got maize in it. Now, why on earth would tuna have maize in it? Just doesn't, and I don't get that. I don't understand that.
Nah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's totally crazy, but I mean, it's good news coming out of Europe this last couple of weeks. I don't know if you heard that, but they've actually banned some of the a few of the varieties of neonicotinoids for 2 years. So it's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, and isn't the government in New Zealand working on that as well?
No, I don't think so.
I thought that there was that just recently that the NBA had been speaking to the government about...
Oh, the NBA, which is the National Beekeepers Association for New Zealand, guys. Yeah, they've been talking about it, and Barry Foster mentioned this in his editorial about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But the government aren't looking at it yet. I mean, I think the NBA are trying to push
they
it.
are asking the government to look at it because of what's happening overseas, and because of this neonicotinoid issue.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
we hope that the government will listen,
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the focus is to try and get people to understand that keeping bees, whether it's on a large scale or a hobbyist scale, is actually going to help the whole bee situation. Encourage people to have bees, in their backyard, encourage people to have them on the roof. Even businesses, just to have them around is definitely going to be helpful for the bees.
I don't know about having them on the roof, That just seems crazy to me.
Well, why not?
What if how do you get honeysuckers off a roof?
Yeah, but I'm talking about there are businesses that have easy access.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they
for
put
businesses.
hives on the top of their roofs. So, that will get the bees into the central cities and will get, give the population a wider disperse, rather than in just small closeted rural areas.
Well, there's actually a beekeeper in Australia, in Canberra, and she's actually got a program where they actually do add beehives to offices and stuff. So we hope to get her on the podcast at some point to have a talk to her about it. So that's an interesting program.
I mean, there are things happening in New Zealand through councils, and I went to a meeting today to discuss some of the options with regards to having bees, and it sort of follows on from some of the work we did last year in terms of keeping bees on private and public land. So I'm hoping really positive things from that, and I will keep you posted on how that goes.
That sounds good. Is it to do with the amalgamating of the bylaws, is it?
No, that was kind of a separate issue, but because I've brought it up, they'll now be looking into that, because it's very key to get, in our view, and from our perspective as kiwimana, to have policy that complements each other and connects with each other, because there's no point having something that will connect people to have bees in a park when doesn't make sense. But if it connects with educational programs such as planting and gardening and vegetables and flowers and fruit and everything like that, if there's a big connection with the whole bee situation, it also helps support birds. and it helps support our native pollinators, and the honeybee, is complementary to that and is not a threat to our native side of things. There was an article that I read that Doc did where they were testing the harm of the exotic honeybee in comparison to the native pollinators and bees, and they found that there is no threat and that they could be they would all help each other. Yeah. So that was, that's something that we need to understand, that having bees is not only about saving the bees, it's about encouraging, the pollinators to help with the whole ecosystem. So I'm really positive that it will make a big difference, and if we can educate people. So those kind of things really need to be a real positive educational thing as well, and connected to, grassroots communities, and I'm hoping that will happen.
Well, speaking of education, there's apparently been an article published this week in the UK saying a shocking number of British kids have never seen a bee.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, it's like, how many people have been to the beach,
Oh, I know. It's shocking, eh? Well, isn't it true that some people in England have never seen a chicken? Live chicken?
Yeah, and you can see how that could happen, because, they go to a supermarket and everything's wrapped up. The kids aren't connecting the natural world with the food they eat.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's very exciting if we can get local government and local councils to connect that, because it'll be a more, I don't want to say holistic, but it will be an approach that will help in a holistic way and heal people, make people stay healthy.
Yeah, this is another reason why it'd be great to get beehives in schools, wouldn't it? So
Absolutely.
the kids can get involved and they can realise the benefits, really.
Yeah, so I think there is real scope there for councils, local government and central government to start looking at connecting the dots. Having good quality water, having good quality land, feeding animals properly, having the right food source available, not just corn, and the issues that happened overseas with feeding cows food that was not designed for cows.
Oh, you mean feeding cows other cows?
Yeah, they were feeding them food that was had proteins in it, meat proteins, and it's just unnatural. So you really are creating a big risk. So I'm just really hoping that getting people more connected to the bees and flowers and trees and all that kind of stuff will make them more aware. And as you said, in England, a lot of the kids, they may not have even seen a bee. They haven't seen what happens to a chicken. It's the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's crazy. And another news from England is that gardeners are urged to let ivy flourish, because apparently ivy is a good source of pollen for the bees. But remember when, I think someone was telling us that the ivy honeys taste awful, doesn't it?
Yeah, I heard that it tasted really bitter or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there's from England is listening to this, it'd be great to just comment on the blog post there. Is ivy honey nice, or is it just hideous? They'd be really keen to find out. And that's kiwimana.co.nz/21. If you could get back to us, that'd be cool.
But we don't encourage New Zealand gardeners to encourage ivy, because ivy becomes a pest because it becomes so invasive. So we do not class ivy as the kind of plant you want to plant in New Zealand, because it is an invasive species and exotic.
So is gorse, isn't it? And that's a pest, but it's good for bees. So
Yeah, I understand that, but the problem with ivy is that it's very difficult to get rid of it.
Oh, okay.
So, it has been recognised as an invasive species. So
Yeah.
don't be planting ivy in New Zealand.
Well, this article says we should.
No, that's encouraging it in the UK.
I know.
Where ivy is a native species
Yeah,
for them, but
we
not
should-
in New Zealand.
We should be planting manuka trees.
Absolutely, because you'll get much more money for your honey if you plant
Yes.
manuka.
Yes, very much more honey. Which is causing a lot of issues, isn't it? Because also down in, how do you say that? Oamaru? Yeah, it's south of Tauranga.
Oamaru.
In the Bay of, oh yeah, that's it. In the Bay of Plenty, and someone's stolen 22 hives.
Oh, that's
So, there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of that going on up north, isn't there? We went up to the Wangaro Bee Club. So, I guess, when there's money involved, people start stealing stuff. It's shocking, isn't it?
I think it's terrible, and I hate to say this, but who are these people who think that it's okay to do this? It's not okay. The bees, a lot of these people that have been stealing hives actually end up with a whole lot of dead bees, and all they get is one run of honey, and that's it. And, you've created a real issue with, the bees themselves, because the bees won't survive it. And, it just appalls me that people do that kind of thing. So,
Well, they're like our children, aren't they?
absolutely, and a lot of beekeepers spend a lot of money and time putting their hives together and working the hives and treating them and doing all the things that they need to make sure their bees are well. And for someone to come along and do that, it's appalling, and I really hope they find who's done it.
Yeah.
That issue with what happened up north, they did find the people who did it. So, I just hope that they do find out who's doing it.
Yeah, well, if you've got any information, get hold of the Tauranga police. That's shocking.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that is Oamaru.
Yeah, I don't know.
How's that spelled?
Where is it? Omanawa. Anyway, it'll be in the show notes anyway, guys, so you can have a look at there. The beehives were taken from Jensen Road. Omanawa. So it's Jensen Road on March the 26th. There it is.
Oh, yeah, Omanawa.
Yeah,
it's near Matamata, outside of Matamata.
Is
yeah.
it?
So I think that, if you do know anything, let the police know, because I think it's really important that we stop this behaviour and get these people, prosecuted.
Get those mongrels, as that guy from Police 107 would say.
Ah, yes, get those mongrels, that's the one. But I think it's really interesting to say that if people are going to these kind of lengths, then we, is beekeeping becoming something that we have to police more, I mean,
well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because a lot of beehives are in remote locations that, you can't exactly stick them in the middle of town, can you? So, they're not going to have people watch them all the time, so...
The concern would people stop registering their hives? How are these people... I'd say that they would have to be some kind of local or have some local contact, because how would they know where those hives are?
Well, I mean, I don't know what the area is like, but I mean, if you could see them from the road,
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we driven around the country and found beehives on the side of the road,
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them too, so yeah. Anyway, I wish them the best, and I hope that they can find who those mongrels are.
Indeed. And another article that we published this month was German wasps, how to keep them out of your hives. And for our American listeners, which we know there's quite a few, that German wasps are actually, you guys call them yellow jackets. And we wrote an article about ways you can keep them out of your hives. And
I have my own way of dealing with wasps.
Oh, you mean your labour-intensive vacuum cleaner method?
Yep.
Yep. Okay,
I get the
we'll
extension.
talk about that in a minute.
Oh, okay. Okay, Gary.
Well, the ways that I deal with them is I set up a trap thing, like a lure, and that's a really good solution, actually. That works really well. And we also have wasp guards. And the other thing to do is reduce your entrances down. And Margaret's going to explain her method. But be careful with this, guys, because it involves power.
I think it should be a combination of approaches for these wasps, because I think that having food sources around the hive that's supposed to attract the wasps is not a good thing, because they'll go and tell someone there's a food source there. So you're actually encouraging...
Oh, but if you read my article, it actually says that it's not actually encouraging them. It's actually because what's happens is those scout bees go out and they actually get trapped, so they don't go back to the nest to tell other bees. Other wasps. That's my theory. Then.
Well, that was good, because my question was going to be that if there's some source there and they find out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have a source there and the wasps can actually escape from it, then you're right. Like if you had a big pot of honey there, it wouldn't last long, would it? So.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've been pretty good this season with wasps, but it's now towards the end of the season, they seem to have, the numbers have really increased. And when I was on my road trip while I was away, I saw that there were lots and lots of wasps around, and that was further down the country, so it's further south. So they seem to have done really well down there, but I think because of the constant rain we had up here, we've been really lucky this season, and up here on the hill it's not as bad. But when I did my my eradication method, what I did was, I know it sounds a bit crazy, but then I'm trying to protect my babies, so I'll do what I need to do. I got an extension cord and I plugged the vacuum cleaner in, and I sat by the hives, and the best times to do it that I found was in the evening when all the hives where all the bees were returning to the hives, and there was a higher presence of wasps. So I did that, and in one sitting I just vacuumed up a whole, it must have been about 1,000 wasps. And that's how bad we have wasps where we are. And then I just close off the end and they just die. So, I think it was really helpful, because those wasps were not going back to the nest. So it worked out really well, and I've noticed that coming back up north that the wasps are becoming more prevalent at the moment. So even today I went out to have a look at how they were, what the presence of wasps were, and yeah, they are. There's lots of them out there, and they're trying to,
Well, I actually noticed in the week when I was doing inspections that you're holding a frame up to look at it, and the wasp lands on it.
Yeah.
So they are a lot more out there at the moment.
Yeah. The thing that I think was the combination that I think would be ideal is to have a reduced entrance, but also with a wasp guard, because the reduced entrance still means that, I was watching it, is that the bees were collecting at the front of the hive and enabled the wasp to get amongst them and grab a bee. Yeah. So with the wasp guard, the bees could still gather in front of the reduced entrance, and the wasp couldn't get in there to get them. So the combination of the two, I think, might be the way to go. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the guards are good, but I think if you reduce the entrances enough, that's probably will help most of them as well. But yeah, I think both of them's good.
I mean, I think the theory is that with the reduced entrance, and because we've still got quite a few bees, that the bees are held up from going into the hive, so they're more vulnerable for a wasp to come along and give them,
Absolutely.
So I think that's why I think that the combination approach might be the way to go, especially if you are in the same sort of area as us, and wasps are coming into their own at the end of this, our bee season.
Yep, it's true. I've just remembered we've got to mention about there's actually for people in Auckland, there's actually a beekeeping night coming up. And it's on Thursday, the 23rd of May. I was talked about this from a lady at the Rudolf Steiner School, and they're having a fundraiser. It's at 7 p.m, and they're going to be showing the movie Queen of the Sun.
Oh, that's a good one.
What are the bees telling us? So that's we might try and go along to that, eh? And all proceeds go to the Rudolf Steiner Kindergarten. And they're going to actually have some holistic beekeepers.
So who would they contact to do that? Because I think you have to get your tickets as soon as you can if you want them cheaper.
Who do they contact? They contact Anusha Bradley on phone number, this will be an Auckland number, 550-7364.
So that's 09.
09. Yeah, I'll have this in the show notes too. Or you can email her on anushabradley@gmail.com, and it's anusha.bradley, BRADLEY @gmail.com. But I'll have that in the show notes, and if you guys can make it along there, that'd be awesome, because we'll probably see you. I mean, we have actually seen that movie, haven't we?
Yeah, we recommend that it's good viewing. It just gives some other perspectives of what's going on, mainly over in America, eh?
Yeah, but it does have a bit of New Zealand content in as well, doesn't it? Remember they had that New Zealand family?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a varied thing. I think it's a great movie to go along, and it's a good cause as well. And there's going to be honey and beautiful forest folk handcrafts for sale as well.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yep.
Support our local people.
We might see you there. And what else is coming up? Oh, we're going to be interviewed on Saturday, aren't we? That's going to be interesting, but maybe we should
yeah, that's something that we're working on. We'll fill you in more on that as we go along.
And also we're interviewing a scientist on Thursday, hopefully, about pseudoscorpions in your hive, and they have actually got a program to breed them. So, that's going to be interesting.
Oh, that will be really interesting. I remember when I first found them, I thought, what is this, what is this?
Scorpion.
Yeah, it looked like it was an insect I saw in the hive.
Yeah.
And then when I magnified it, it looked like a scorpion. And so I was really fascinated by what I discovered. And that's why I think that magnifying when you're looking in through your bees is actually quite a good idea, because I would never have found out about pseudoscorpions if I hadn't have magnified the inspection board, and it was just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think if they're breeding them, that is a good way to go. But we had some pseudoscorpions in our hives, but I think the treatments aren't very kind, even the organic treatments. But I'm not sure, because we haven't really looked for them, eh?
No, well, apparently, we haven't really looked for them. But if you do get any guys, you can, you'll have to listen to that podcast, but I think he's actually looking for people to send him samples of them, because they're having trouble breeding them in captivity. So it's interesting, isn't it?
It sounds like a really good idea. I'm just not sure, because if you look at, I think I looked up on Wikipedia, pseudoscorpion, and there was information about there, but it's not from what I can see, it's not a very aggressive insect, and it seems to just cohabitate and move from insect to insect. So, it could be on any kind of insect, and its objective is to eat the mite. So the theory would be, if you could produce a lot of pseudoscorpions and release them into the hive, I guess, they'll go on a rampage of killing mites. So if they could do that... Yeah,
I think the bees would probably take to them as well, but it's a problem.
Anyway. They're not harmful to the bees at
but
all. They just sit on there.
The bees will try and throw them out, because they're not
Well, they're not part of the hive,
No.
so it would be really interesting to see how, if they go down that road, how the bees would behave,
Well, let's get to feedback now. And we've got
I
some-
encourage those people, though, to,
What people? Oh, Well, listen in for that podcast, guys. We'll hear all about it because
And you can check out one of those articles that I did as well.
Articles. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because that's got photos of it showing what they look like and everything.
We'll include
Maybe
those. We'll include those in the podcast
so
when we
people can
interview.
have a look at that.
Yeah, we will.
Be good.
But we're going to talk to the guy first. And so moving on to feedback, we got some great feedback, didn't we, from Carrie in Seattle. And she's teaching an after-school seminar on beekeeping.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
Apparently, one of her students found our website, our kiwimana.co.nz resources page.
Awesome.
It's cool, eh?
Go Kiwis.
People in
Yay.
America listen to it. Yeah. And she just wants to say thanks for creating the page. I found some resources on that I've never seen anywhere else. Thought you might like to know.
That's why you should still give the show note or give the feed the feed for that pseudoscorpion thing. Even if this guy is going to look into it, I think that our listeners would probably really like to have a look at what we're talking about. So,
Okay, well,
please add that.
We'll add a photo in there for that. How's that?
Well, connect them to that blog.
Yep. Okay, I'll do that.
Good man, good man.
And
also, what about thank yous? We were really, really lucky to find an organic farm which is just nearby, thanks to our contacts from Earthbound Honey, and Gary dropped off some honey to them, from Kiwimana.
Oh, that's right.
And then we got this lovely note in the letterbox from them, telling us.
Yeah, thank you. It was really nice.
And it was just so nice to hear that and to to get that feedback, and thank you for, putting the bees there. And also with going forward, we've got another person near in the local community who's getting a site ready for us to put bees there. So, we're really grateful for people to, help us promote the bees, and it's very exciting. And, just by connecting these things together, we can really create a community that is really doing a combination of approaches to help the bees and other pollinators. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, that was great, and people love honey, don't they? So it's a good thing to give to people.
And they love flowers, and they love fruit and vegetables. So it's all win-win-win.
And I gave Mum some honey for Mother's Day, so that was nice.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, and when we went down to our other property, we shared around some of our honey to our neighbours and everything, and they're all enjoying it. So it's all good.
And we got a letter from, was it the American thing? Whatever.
What thing?
Oh, hold on a minute. Sorry, guys, just showing this. Plant and research to say that our honey sample was negative for AFB.
Oh, awesome. So we are doing something right, eh? So it's all good.
I mean, AFB's, it's hard to avoid it, isn't it, if the area's got it? But
yeah, and we have been unfortunate that our area has had quite a few reports of AFB being identified. So we are very pleased that our honey is clear. It's a real relief. So yay, 21, our honey is clear, and we've got the keys to the whole kingdom.
Indeed we have. And our contact details, if you want to get a hold of us, if you listen to this somewhere else, our website is kiwimana. That's Kiwi, MANA, co.nz. And you can email us at
Margaret at kiwimana.co.nz
or Gary at kiwimana.co.nz, or both of us, info
at kiwimana.co.nz.
And in closing, I'd just like to say thanks guys for all the great feedback about the new newsletter format. And we've had some great feedback, and people have been replying to us, and it's been fantastic. So now you got some feedback today, didn't you, from Chris, wasn't it?
Yeah, Chris is a neighbour, and he says, he's really loving them. So thanks, Chris, for that feedback. And, awesome. We just really appreciate everything that you give to us, and we try and share that with others as well.
Yeah.
And we just love it, and thank you so much.
So if you get a chance, guys, go onto our website, kiwimana.co.nz, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a Get Free Email Updates box. Just put in your name and email address there, and we'll send you a weekly email of what we're doing, and you'll also get to hear about new podcasts and new articles that we publish. So, never miss out on anything we're up to.
Yep, awesome.
That's awesome, isn't it? Okay, anything else you want to say to this month there, Margaret?
No, we just say, just get some bees, or plant a wildflower garden, get some fruit trees, or do a vegetable patch. So it's all awesome.
Indeed. Okay, well, thanks for listening, guys. We really, 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 really appreciate you guys listening, and it's fantastic to see so many people from overseas listening, and we'll have some great interviews coming up this next couple of months, so keep an eye out on our RSS feeds and our websites and our mailing list. So cheers, guys, and we'll talk to you next week.
See ya!